What if the goal wasn't just to live longer, but to be vibrant, strong, and active well into your hundreds? That's exactly what we're breaking down today. A practical, step-by-step blueprint for becoming a truly kick-ass 100-year-old. And this entire blueprint comes from a health systems engineer named Troy Delaney. I just love this quote because it really captures the spirit of the whole thing, a little self-experimentation to find out what really works for you, even if it seems kind of out there to everyone else. It's a huge question, right? I mean, if you go looking for longevity advice online, you just get hit with this tidal wave of conflicting information. Fasting, this diet, that diet, crazy workouts. It's totally overwhelming, and it's almost impossible to know where you should even begin. Well, this is the proposed solution. See, using his background in process optimization, making things efficient, Troy Delaney created this flowchart. It's basically a decision tree built on the work of top longevity experts like Dr. Peter Attia and Dr. Valter Longo, and it's designed to give anyone a clear path no matter where you're starting from. So let's start our journey through the blueprint right at the beginning. Before we even think about diet or exercise, we have to build a solid foundation. These are the absolute 100% non-negotiables. If you look right at the top of the flowchart, the very first checkpoint isn't about your body at all. It's about your mind. It starts by asking, are you emotionally resilient? And the reason this is first is because chronic stress, well, it floods your body with hormones like cortisol, and that just undermines every single other healthy thing you try to do. So if the answer is no, the path is crystal clear. The first step is to seek professional help, because your mental health is the bedrock of everything else. Okay, once emotional well-being is on the right track, the next checkpoint is just as critical. The flowchart asks about smoking and excessive drinking. These are seen as such powerful negatives that the blueprint is really clear. You have to deal with them before you can really move forward. Now, here is a really counterintuitive piece of advice. If you're working through these big foundational issues, the advice is to actually lower your protein intake. The logic here is that while your body is in an unhealthy, inflamed state, high protein can actually be more of a burden than a benefit. The priority is to get rid of the big negatives first. All right, so once that foundation is stable, it's time to build the engine that's going to carry you for decades. This section is all about your physical body, focusing on movement, and, this is so critical, muscle. So the blueprint asks for an honest self-assessment here. Where do you fall? Are you inactive? Are you moderately active, getting in about 3 or more hours of exercise a week? Or are you basically an athlete, putting in over 10 hours a week? Your answer here determines your very next step. And right after activity level, the blueprint moves to what a lot of experts now think is the cornerstone of longevity, your muscle mass. The question is, are you carrying enough muscle for your frame? You should really think of it as a vital organ for your metabolic health and your resilience as you get older. And right here, you can see how the advice is perfectly tailored. If you're inactive, the focus is super simple. Just move more and start zone 2 cardio. That's just low-intensity cardio where you can still hold a conversation. If you're under-muscled, the priority shifts to resistance training. And notice how the protein recommendations scale up with your activity level to support all that muscle growth. It's pretty smart. But the blueprint gets even more specific with this next recommendation. It gives a target of 30 to 40 grams of protein in your very first meal of the day. So, why is that? So, why the morning? It's not arbitrary at all. When you front-load your protein like this, you kickstart muscle repair and growth. But what's even more interesting is that it acts like a signal to set your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm. A strong morning signal like that can lead to better metabolism all day and can even help you fall asleep more easily at night. So you're building your engine with movement and muscle. Now we need to give it the right fuel and let it recover properly. And that brings us to the next critical section, sleep and nutrition. The next checkpoint is beautifully simple. How's your sleep? If the answer is not great, the blueprint basically directs you to stop and focus on fixing it, period. Sleep is absolutely non-negotiable. All the perfect diet and exercise in the world won't work if your recovery is broken. Okay, once your sleep is in a good place, we look at nutrition through a really simple lens. Are you getting enough nutrient-dense food, or are you maybe carrying a little excess energy? The path forward from here is completely different depending on your answer. Now, if the issue is being overnourished, the blueprint doesn't force one specific diet on you. Instead, it offers a whole menu of proven strategies. This could be a simple calorie deficit, a specific diet like the Mediterranean diet, or a time-based approach like OMAD, that's 1 meal a day, or time-restricted eating. The key here isn't about which one is best, it's about which one you can actually stick with. One of those options you saw was FMD. That just stands for the Fasting Mimicking Diet, and it was developed by Dr. Valter Longo. It's a specific 5-day plan designed to give you the cellular benefits of a long fast, but here's the kicker. You still get to eat some food, which, let's be honest, makes it a whole lot more doable for most of us. Okay, so you've dialed in your habits, your movement, sleep, and nutrition. This brings us to the final major checkpoint before we can even think about optimizations, a check-in on your overall metabolic health. And this brings up a really crucial point from the research. You've probably heard that high animal protein is linked to higher mortality, but when you really dig into the data, you find that link mainly exists in people who have an otherwise unhealthy lifestyle. For active, metabolically healthy people, that negative association completely vanishes. It's a perfect example of how context is absolutely everything. So, if you've made it through all the previous checkpoints and you are metabolically healthy, now you can finally consider the advanced stuff. This is where things like deliberate heat and cold exposure, targeted supplements, or specific medical interventions come into play. But these are the final 10% tweaks. They're not the starting point. And you know, the thread that runs through this entire process, the one thing that makes any of this actually work, it all comes down to one single word: consistency. You can have the most perfect plan in the world, but without consistency, it means absolutely nothing. This is the real key. In fact, the blueprint has a rule about this. You don't just check a box and move on. The idea is to live with each change, making it a real, solid habit for at least 60 to 90 days before you even think about tackling the next block. This is all about building a sustainable lifestyle, not just looking for a quick fix. So there you have it, a clear, logical path to follow. The question is no longer where do I even start, but rather which box am I in right now? So take a look at the chart. Find your starting point. What is the one thing you are going to focus on with consistency for the next 60 days?